That quote right there says it all. It perfectly captures the insane, unbelievable paradox at the very heart of one of the greatest movies ever made. And believe me, the story of how The Godfather got to the screen is arguably even more dramatic and more brutal than the film itself. So, today we're going to give you the detailed breakdown of that real-life war. A battle that pitted a desperate author against a failing studio and, get this, a genuine mafia crime boss who swore he would stop this movie from ever being made by any means necessary. We're going to follow this whole chaotic journey right from the very beginning, from the novel's desperate origins all the way to the wild moment the film basically became the mob's own national anthem. So, let's start at the top. Okay, so before it was this legendary film, The Godfather was a novel. And it was a novel born out of pure, unadulterated financial desperation. The author, a guy named Mario Puzo, was a serious literary writer with a very, very big problem. He was completely broke. I mean, his critically acclaimed book, The Fortunate Pilgrim, the one he poured his heart into, was a total commercial disaster. At the same time, though, real-life mobsters were all over the news, and Puzo, well, he saw an opportunity. The only problem? He knew absolutely nothing about the Mafia. So he heads to Vegas, starts gathering stories from a casino pit boss, and basically fakes it till he makes it. And what do you know? Puzo's gamble pays off. The book is a massive, runaway hit. But this just creates a whole new problem for Paramount Pictures. See, the studio was in its own crisis, and they looked at this book and saw a total disaster waiting to happen. To really get why they were so scared, you have to put yourself in their shoes. Hollywood was getting crushed by television, and the studio's last big gangster movie had just bombed hard. So their plan for The Godfather was simple. Make it cheap. Like, really cheap. They hire a young producer, Al Ruddy, who was known for coming in under budget, and this relatively unknown director named Francis Ford Coppola, hoping they could just cash in on the book's title and call it a day. But the second Paramount announced they were going to shoot the film in New York, they walked straight into a buzzsaw. They were about to come face-to-face with a real-life godfather, Joe Colombo, the head of a crime family who was ready to use a powerful new organization to wage all-out war on their little movie. Now, on the surface, the League had this noble cause, right? Fighting defamation. But with Colombo in charge, it pretty much became the mob's PR firm and its army. Their whole line was that there was no such thing as the Mafia in America, and they were definitely not about to let Paramount make a movie that said otherwise. And let's be clear, we're not just talking about protests and angry letters. This was a campaign of real terror. Producer Al Ruddy was being tailed by mob cars. His secretary's car had its windows blown out. There were repeated bomb scares that completely shut down the Gulf and Western building where their offices were. The message could not have been clearer. Get out of New York. That threat? That was made directly to the head of Paramount Pictures. And the head of the snake they were talking about? That was producer Al Ruddy. The danger was real, the film was completely stalled, and things were getting very, very serious. So, with location scouting totally impossible and unions threatening to go on strike, Al Ruddy realized he had one option left. He had to go meet the man who was trying to shut him down, Joe Colombo himself. The meeting was just pure theater. Colombo demands to see the script. Ruddy hands him the only copy. Colombo puts on his glasses, looks at it for a second, then dramatically throws him down, saying he can't read with them. Then he tosses the script to one of his guys, who passes it to another. Ruddy said it was like they were passing around a live hand grenade. So after all that drama, they actually strike a deal. Ruddy agrees to remove every single mention of the word mafia from the script. Now, here's the incredible part. In the entire 155-page screenplay, that word appeared exactly once. But Colombo wasn't done. Oh no. He tricked Ruddy into this huge press conference to announce their deal. The headlines the next day were a complete nightmare. Mafia moves in on Gulf and Western. The company's stock just tanked, and the CEO, absolutely furious, fired Ruddy on the spot. It actually took Francis Ford Coppola personally begging the CEO to get Ruddy his job back. Okay, so with the deal in place, filming could finally begin. You think the chaos was over, right? Not even close. The production now became a battlefield on two fronts. You had Coppola fighting the studio, while the crew was dealing with the very real mobsters who were now part of the whole operation. So while he's dealing with the mob, Coppola is also fighting his own studio on every single creative decision. They hated his choice of Marlon Brando. They thought Al Pacino was too short, too unknown. They even claimed his dark, moody cinematography made the movie look, quote, unreleasable. And meanwhile, that deal with Columbo meant the mob was now on set. We're talking real wise guys hired as extras. And most famously, a real-life enforcer named Lenny Montana was cast as the fearsome Luca Brasi. He was so genuinely intimidated by Marlon Brando that his nervous fumbling during rehearsal was exactly what Coppola wanted for the character, so he kept it in the final cut. And this is where fiction and reality just completely collided. On the exact day Coppola was filming an assassination scene, Joe Colombo, the guy who made the deal, was shot in real life just 4 blocks away. Turns out his public profile made him a liability to the other crime families, and his shooting sparked a real mob war that played out on the very same streets of Little Italy where the movie was being filmed. It's just unbelievable. So after 2 years of threats, deals, and actual real-life violence, The Godfather was finally released. It was an explosive, record-breaking success, and that sets us up for the story's final, most incredible twist. Get this. The very same mobsters who fought tooth and nail to stop this movie were now furious they didn't get tickets to the premiere. So Ruddy arranges a private screening just for them. And their reaction? They loved it so much they gave the projectionist a $1,000 tip. And this is the ultimate irony of the whole story. The FBI actually noticed in their surveillance tapes that real mobsters started talking and acting like the characters in the movie. They started using phrases like Godfather. They started kissing rings. The movie they tried to kill didn't just depict their world, it fundamentally reshaped it. The film's score literally became their anthem. Which leaves us with this fascinating paradox, right? A film that Coppola intended as this dark critique of a culture he wasn't proud of was embraced by the very people it was portraying. They didn't see it as an exposé. They saw it as a tribute. So you have to ask, did this cinematic masterpiece accidentally become the greatest public relations tool the Mafia ever had? It's a question that's just as complex and fascinating as the film itself.